Woodman's Insider Football is back on 1029 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network. So glad everybody could be with us this evening. It's had some technical difficulties on the radio side, so Kevin and I are going to drop this episode on YouTube, and we'll make sure everybody has a chance to consume it. How you doing, Kevin? I mean, what a playoffs we are seeing. Is this the best wild card round that we've ever seen?
And we still have one game to go. Yes, it is. Every game's been, one score pretty much or less, except till you got to the mess at the end of last night. Every game's been, before the Eagles game, every game, the team that was losing going in the 2-minute warning ended up winning the game. So, yeah, they've all been tight.
Yeah, it's been exciting. And unfortunately, where we are in the Philadelphia area, everybody's crying in their beer about their Eagles. But if you follow all 32 like we do around the National Football League, I mean, they couldn't be any more happier in terms of these games. As you were saying, a lot of excitement, uh, back and forth action, and a lot of things have happened the way we thought. I think we're both 4-1 right now in terms of our picks. Um, and then we have tonight's game. So we're going to recap all the games, and then we'll get into the hottest topic on the floor. The Philadelphia Eagles. I've been watching all the national shows, local, and everybody's talking about where does the defending Super Bowl champions go from here, because they laid the egg at home in Philadelphia, and a lot of people are irate. I was just on Rich Q's show, and he was unapologetically saying Sirianni should be fired. And I was like, the guy has a 70% winning percentage in the regular season. He's been in Super Bowl and he's won a Super Bowl. So, that's not happening. You have to back off it. Yes, it's reactionary and you have to, just let it sit in. But hey, you can't win every year. That's why there has not been a defending Super Bowl champion. The Kansas City did it a couple years ago, but then they tried for the three-peat. They couldn't get it done. And they were the first one since the 04-05 Patriots. So it just shows you how difficult it is around the league to, sustain that greatness. So in terms of the game tonight, getting ready to kick off, Houston Texans at Pittsburgh Steelers. Houston is playing extremely well. I forget how many games they've won in a row going in here, but they're on a winning streak. Um, and they are a 3.5-point road favorite in this one. So, what are you thinking in terms of analysis of this game?
I'm pretty sure, once again, ask me in a couple hours if I'm right or not. But that game has the under written all over it. I see Pittsburgh keeping it close with Houston. I see leads going back and forth. I see the kickers, which has been a huge thing in the playoffs, not only in the college football playoffs, but in the NFL playoffs. Kicking is really swinging these games right now. It's going to come down to field goal kicks, and it's going to be basically whoever has the ball last is going to have a chance to win the game, I think.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because Fairbairn, he's been a little up and down for the Texans in terms of kicking the football, and you saw Boswell last week for the Steelers. He missed that extra point. Luckily, they survived against the Ravens, and I do tend to agree with you that this will probably be a close game. The over-under is 39.5. I could see like a 17-14 Texans win. It's probably going to be cold out there in Pittsburgh, windy, and I think the key matchup is the Texans' vaunted defense led by D'Amico Ryans, and they're getting after the quarterback. They have over 60 sacks this season, number 2 in the National Football League. And the Steelers' offensive line has had difficulty in terms of just consistently blocking. And let's face it, Aaron Rodgers is 42 years old, so they know where he's going to be. So I expect the Texans to find a way to win this game as long as C.J. Stroud protects the football. So I'm going Texans in this one.
I put my money where my mouth is, so yeah, definitely. I'm going with the Texans as well. But it's kind of funny when you're looking at just gambling insights, and you sit there and you see these different sites, and this site saying this team and the other team, and basically no one knows what they're talking about. But I think I found the key to the playoff success in the first round. This one guy has his little girl there, and she has two of the little mini football helmets that you used to put a quarter in the machine and get, right? And he puts each matchup in front of her. she's picked the wrong team to win every single game. She picked the Eagles to win. She picked the Chargers to win. So with this game right here, she picked the Steelers to win. So that tells me bet the house on the Texans right there. She's on a streak of losing, although maybe she's due. Maybe she's due.
Kevin's terrible. Picking on a little girl on her picks, but
I'm
hey,
leaving. I need something,
maybe
man.
it works for them. You and I know, and we're old school TV guys, Kevin. Dwayne on what's happening. He was picking all the winners. He was picking them by the helmets. And
Yeah,
Rerun's
like
brother was so happy with him. And then next thing he picks the most strange upset ever, and his formula is shot to crap. So we'll see how that little girl does. But yeah, I tend to think that Houston's going to win this one. You got to watch a home dog, though. The Steelers are the home dog, and maybe they'll find a way to keep this thing close. I expect a lot of Kenny Gainwell in this game. Um, DK Metcalf is back from his suspension, but he's probably going to see Stingley Jr. in terms of shadowing him around the field. So probably going to be a close game, as we said, but we're going to go with the Texans. So we're here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 1029 Game, Coast Sports Digital Network. All right, Kevin, we're going to start recapping all the games and just talking about the greatness of these games. And we're not going to start with we're not going to start with the Eagles because I know everybody wants you to, but Saturday, the Rams. I mean, wow. Matthew Stafford has a comeback win. Rams get it done 34-31 down in Carolina. For a second there, it looked like Carolina, who's 8-9, limping in the playoffs, was going to get that home win. Stafford 24-42, 304 yards, 3 TDs. The Rams did give the Panthers some opportunities because Stafford did have an interception, but quality win for the Rams and Puka Nacua. I mean, I was talking about a prop bet on back your play, and I was like, his prop bet was 8 catches, and I knew that was easy money. He had 10 catches on 18 targets for 111, and then a touchdown, and he had 3 runs for 14 and another touchdown. So Nakua is just playing extremely well. It's going to be interesting to see when he goes against the Bears in a couple weeks. Next week.
also with Devontae Adams back, that really helped the Rams offense. You would think just to take a little heat off of Nakua as well. Devontae Adams had a huge drop for them. Stafford banged up his finger. He wasn't the same in the second half, as you could tell, but he made the big drive and the touchdown to Parkinson that put him over the edge right there. So, I mean, Stafford's going to have some time to heal with that a little bit, but we're going to see the severity of it in the upcoming game.
Stafford staying, of course, and this was a hard hitting game, man. You saw people going in and out of the blue tent. I mean, Carolina wanted their respect. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, they're a joke because they had a losing record," but they had beaten the Rams earlier in the season, as everybody knows, and this was their chance to kind of prove it. Uh, and I think the Rams were a little tight at certain points of this game, particularly McVay. He was probably worried they weren't going to get it done. And once again, Kevin, and you and I talked about this. What is up with these coaches not taking the points? All of them are going for it on fourth down and not getting it. It's like Dan Campbell is running all these teams.
It's ridiculous. It's like even watching that Eagles game yesterday. I mean, I understand with the Jake Elliott, philosophy right now, but it was just every single game you see both coaches, not just one, both coaches, they won't take the points. It's a playoff game. Get the points, man. It's the first quarter of the game. Why are you pushing it for 4 down territory? And the sad thing is when it works, it's like that's going to make them do it even more. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. Maybe it's just me getting older and, don't understand all the dynamics with, the projections and blah, blah, blah. But take the points.
I agree with you. And it's shown the best teams, throughout NFL history. They're kind of conservative in the playoffs, and the points are precious. So get them when you can. You see it over and over again where a missed extra point is even a huge thing. And we'll talk about that with the Eagles in a second, but it's every point when you can. And too often, all these guys are like, all right, well, we're going to go for it and we'll get the dagger. Well, guess what? You're only hurting yourself because the percentages are not as good as people think they are in terms of, converting on fourth down. And some of these things are like, it's 4th and 8. and they're on the opponent's 35. Okay, I know a 52-yard field goal is not a gimme, but with these kickers today, you probably have a better chance of converting that than a 4th and 8. So, yeah, that's something I wanted to ask Kevin about. But a good win for the Rams. I see them definitely with Stafford being that veteran quarterback, being able to go into Chicago, compete, and we'll preview that game in a minute. But good win for them. Comeback win, as Kevin was saying earlier. All the games were real tight, back and forth. And this was the first one to kick everything off. The Rams were 10-point favorites. Obviously, they didn't cover. And they did hit the over, though. The over under was 46 and a half, 65 points in this game. So the new NFL, Kevin, I mean, they were scoring all over the place. You'd like to see McVay run the ball a little bit more. Well, Kyren Williams did have 13 rushes, 57 yards, but in the playoffs, you gotta commit to the run. So yeah, maybe a little bit more Blake Corum, but I thought they did a nice job. And don't forget Landman for the Rams. I mean, he was flying around for them. He had 10 tackles in this game, so quality win for them. We're here on Lloyd Vance Inside of Football on 102.9 The Game. So that was Saturday night. The Rams. That was the first game. The second game, and I was thinking of you immediately. I was like, "Oh, this is Kevin's boy." The Chicago Bears come back in crazy fashion. The Green Bay Packers were up 21-3 at the half, and Caleb Williams got hot in the fourth quarter. I mean, in the fourth quarter, he threw from 184, and he had 2 touchdowns and a 110 rating. I mean, he leads the Bears to an improbable comeback victory. Now, is this more the Bears taking care of business and the rise of Caleb and Ben Johnson, or is this LaFleur should be in trouble with the Green Bay Packers because his team didn't get it done?
A little bit of both, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B on that one. And I even texted you during the fourth quarter of that game. I was like, because I was starting to beat on Caleb a little bit. Oh, the USC and him showing right now, the moment's too big for him. Man, he's gutty, man. He went in there, he gritted it out. He didn't give up with his teammates, and he got the W. I mean, he didn't seem phased at the end. He seemed like he thrived in the environment. So, I mean, all the kudos to him. But, yeah, Green Bay dropped it right there. They had a chance to win that game, and they blew it.
We had to close that thing out. And Jacobs had 19 rushes for 55 yards. Maybe they should have just, ran him some more, beat the clock up. But you saw that the Rams had a lot of fight in them. I really like what Colson Loveland did in this game. 8 catches, he had 15 targets for 137. So that rookie's really starting to pop. It's crazy, Kevin, because I had him at the end of fantasy. I picked him up, because Bowers was hurt and he had some good games, but he kind of disappeared in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But we'll see how they do. And then when you look at the stats, Green Bay was 6 of 15 on third downs. Conversely, Chicago 10 of 19. So they started moving the chains when they needed to. The key moments in this game, particularly in the fourth quarter, as I said, the Bears scored 25 points in the fourth quarter. Another big thing was the Packers, much like the Eagles, they got problems with penalties. The Packers had 7 penalties, and Chicago only had 2. So they just stayed the course. This is Chicago's 7th win after trailing in the fourth quarter. So I guess they're for real. I mean, are you stock up, stock down with them?
I got to be stock up at this point. I mean, being stock down, you're just a hater on them at this point. But I tell you what, how much does Ben Johnson hate the Packers? Did you see that post game in the locker
Oh
room
man,
speech
that
he
was
gave? He
yeah.
hates the Packers.
That reminded me of Bobby Knight, man. They barely slapped hands, and they really didn't like each other. So but he was happy to beat him. One of the oldest rivalries in the National Football League, and this was a rubber match, and the Bears, they should probably be happy they got away with the victory, and then the Packers, they're head scratching, and I was on another show earlier today, and they were asking me, is LaFleur in trouble? With John Harbaugh floating out there, there's so many opportunities. Do you think LaFleur's safe? I know they have a new chairman there for the Packers policy coming in the door. Do you think I tend to think he's going to be safe there? He has had too many double-digit win seasons. Has not got it done in playoffs, obviously, but I think he's going to come back.
I think if John Harbaugh had his people get in touch with Green Bay and said he would like that job, LaFleur would be out the next day. I think anytime you see someone like John Harbaugh out there and about, guys who would normally be safe are a little more trepidatious right now, a little more skittish, because if he wants that job, he can get it. Will he probably be safe? Probably. But I mean, there's always that opportunity. If Harbaugh wants it, it's his.
I'm hearing Harbaugh's agent is kicking the tires all around the National Football League. It's just a matter of time before he decides on his landing spot, and I think he'll be the first domino, and then you'll kind of see everything fall into place with the openings. I still tend to think, as you said, unless the Packers job doesn't fall his way, I tend to think he's going to go to the New York Giants. I think he's going to end up there, and you'll probably see Joe Shane, who's the general manager there, take a walk because I'm hearing that Harbaugh has his list of demands. One of his he wants to make as much money as Sean Payton, and he wants to pick his GM. So basically, he's going to buy the groceries and cook the meal, famously, as Parcells said. So wherever he goes, he's going to run the show. I still think the Giants may be the landing spot, and then you have all these other jobs kind of out there, and you're seeing all these coaches and coordinators all interviewing all over the place, but nothing's happening. So all the agents for the coaches seem that their clients are all the same. So I think,
Yeah.
Kevin, a lot of them they're like, all right, let me put my top guy in, and then we'll kind of go from there. Now, obviously, I think like the Cardinals, the Titans, and the Browns, they're the most least attractive, so there may get some up and comer, but we'll see. And yeah, and it was a shame for the Packers. I thought they played well, but they kind of limped in, Kevin. They limped into the playoffs. I think they had lost like 4 straight games, and they, much like the Eagles, they rested their guys. Maybe they should have sharpened them up, gotten them ready in Week 18. But solid win for the Bears. And yes, I was thinking of Kevin because his guy Caleb Williams, he stepped up. I mean, and he's in consideration for a game ball. So great win for them on Saturday night. We're here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 1029 The Game, Close Sports Digital Network. We're also dropping this episode on YouTube. I'm here with Kevin Midgette. So that was Saturday night. Sunday, I'm calling this the Nate Vance Bowl, Kevin. And it was I was going to have him on the show, but I got him back to school yesterday. Had a long day, so I don't, you know. But he was beside himself, Kevin. I mean, the game was what? The game was at 1 o'clock, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he woke up at 7 o'clock in the morning talking about it's game day. It
Mm-hmm.
reminded me of when he played in high school, and he's like, we're going to do it today. We're going to do it, and the youth and the fandom, and it was exciting game. I mean, this may have been the best game, in my opinion, of the weekend. Josh Allen straps on a Superman cape, and he was just incredible at key moments in this game. They're down 4 points late, and he's got to get a touchdown, and he makes it happen. And it's crazy because the Bills voted against the tush push, and they kept using it over and over again to their advantage. So just talk a little bit about the Buffalo Bills and what you saw in this game over Jacksonville.
The one thing I will take from it is Jacksonville, in all intents and purposes, probably should have won that game. They had their chances. Lawrence, I'm not even going to blame him for the second pick as much. He tried to make something happen. He forced it in there, but he didn't show up big in that game. His numbers weren't great. He really needed to take that next step because they finished at the end of the season on a run as well. I mean, they were hot as anybody going into the playoffs. But not to quote myself, but after last week's show, I did say if Buffalo wins this game, they're going to go on a heater. And I said whoever wins this game is going to go to the Super Bowl. I stand by that. I think Buffalo, this is the year they go. This is the first time Josh Allen won a road playoff game. I think this is Buffalo's year to get there.
And Kevin, the Bills snapped 2 8-game streaks. The Jacksonville Jaguars had an 8-game winning streak coming in. This gets snapped there, but the Bills, more importantly, snapped an 8-game road losing streak going back to the old days. They hadn't won a playoff game, I think, since Jim Kelly and those guys on the road. So this was a big chance for them. And I was watching Nate, and you had the comfort level was high And because Josh Allen was on the field, he's just got that look about him, as you said, that if they got past the Jaguars, which was a tough bout, the Jaguars played really well, I thought, in this game. Yes, Trevor Lawrence, 18 of 30, 207, three TDs. He did have two interceptions, but he was only sacked one time. He kept fighting. I think a big play, obviously, was, and we talked about it earlier, they went for it on fourth down. He dove, his knee and shin hit the ground, and they reversed it. They took the first down from him, and then that gave the Bills the ball back. But they were playing extremely well early on, the Jaguars, in terms of Travis Etienne. He was running that football downhill. And then Parker Washington. I mean, he's this young guy from Penn State. I mean, he's a player. I mean, he had 7 receptions for 107 and a touchdown. And you just kept thinking, you're like, all right, maybe this is Jacksonville's time. So, do you think the Jags kind of rebound from this? And then we'll talk about the Bills side.
Yeah, I think Jacksonville definitely rebounds from this. I mean, this is the first time where they've been knocked out in the playoffs where it's like, no, they're on the rise right now. They're not just some team that crawled their way in or hung on to make the playoffs. They came in as hot as anybody in the NFL. And going forward, they have to be nothing but positive about what they're going to do.
And they're a young team, and they have their defense is pretty much intact, led by, ironically, Josh Hines Allen. He's a big time player, and they have pieces on offense. They have a running back. They have Liam Cohen. They have Liam Cohen, who's a good young head coach there. It's only his first year with them, so I think they're going to keep ascending. And then on the Bills side, a quality win for them. Allen, 28 of 35, 273, a touchdown, and he was running the ball effectively. 11 rushes for 33 yards, two TDs. It was sacked once, but Kevin, how many times did he go into 10? I know Nate was like, "Oh man, he hit his hand, he hurt his knee." They hit him all upside the head. They checked him for concussion protocol. I mean, what a gutty effort by Josh Allen.
Yes, and this further is going to add to the Paul Bunyan lore of Josh Allen when he's done and retired. It's like the game against Jacksonville where he went into the tent and the run that he's going to go on. He's that guy at the end of the game. If he's got the ball in his hands, he's become the new Mahomes, the new Brady, like that kind of confidence level when he's there. They're going to find a way to win the game. And I don't see another quarterback in there right now that has that same look. Stafford's been in the league, maybe. He has a little bit if he's got the ball in his hands. The other guys are young guys for the most part, not counting the octogenarian Aaron Rodgers playing right now. So, I mean, with Josh Allen, he just has that look where he's going to get it done at the end of a game.
Yeah, he sure does. And he spread the ball around to 9 different receivers. You got to do it a variety of guys. I just heard that Gabe Davis hurt his knee, I think. So he's probably going to be out the rest of the playoffs. And you got to tip your cap to Khalil Shakir. I mean, he 12 catches for 82 yards. So he's a security blanket. And then you have those two tight ends. And James Cook was a little bottled up in terms of rushing the ball. The NFL's number one rushing attack. But he only had 15 rushes for 46 yards in this game. Also, in terms of the Bills, you got to tip your cap to Shaq Thompson. It's crazy because that defense, Kevin, was beat up, and you're like, who is that guy? And Thompson, I was like, oh, that's the old Panthers guy. 8 tackles, an interception. Greg Rousseau, 6 tackles and a sack. So quality win for them. And once they got the lead, I was like, all right, Trevor Lawrence is going to throw a pick, and then sure enough, it's Tre'Davious White. He knocks up in there, and Bishop, gets it and gets on the ground, and they get the win. So it was satisfying win, and I heard Nate let out this guttural. He was like Johnny Drama, victory. So big win for them. They're going to play Denver Broncos coming up, and we'll talk about that matchup. The line's already out for that game, and that's going to be an interesting one. We're on Lloyd Vance Insider Football 1029 Game, Coast Sports Digital Network on YouTube this week. All right. The middle game on Sunday, and I'm sure Kevin's been waiting to talk about this game. I know the Eagles fans are scratching their head and saying, what the hell happened? We had that game. I saw a lot of long faces on the news and stuff leaving the stadium, and hopefully they didn't fight each other, because sometimes they turn on each other. The Niners win 23-19. But it just leaves so many questions in terms of Philadelphia Eagles. I think they were a 6.5 point home favorite. And the Niners were so banged up, Kevin. You and I talked about it in previewing this game. And they lose George Kittle early in the game to an Achilles. So you're like, other than McCaffrey, who do they really have? And Demarcus Robinson stepped up for them, 6 catches, 111, one TD, and they went right at, Q Mitchell and Cooper DeJean the first drive of the game. And you're like, uh-oh. So what are your first thoughts on this game?
Uh, First, I want to say it's like they definitely won at Kenyon Mitchell. I mean, he got beat twice on that first drive. He came back and played well after that, but I mean, that was on him. There's no doubt about that. The whole thing is with the Philadelphia fan mystique. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the viral stuff that's been going around, just like people throwing beers and everything else, at like families walking by in San Francisco gear and everything else. It's like, all right, man, it's 2026. It's like, stop. People get fired for doing this stupid stuff in their real life. Just knock it off already. Going into the game, you knew the Eagles were going to lose, and you know why? Jake Elliott missed an extra point. Anytime a team misses an extra point early, even though Pinheiro missed one later for San Fran, you know it's going to come back to haunt them. And it just was the start right there. I mean, that's just enough. You get the equalizing touchdown. It's like, all right, we're in a ball game now. And your kicker misses the extra point, deflates the whole atmosphere.
And it was just one of those up and down games for Philadelphia Eagles, and particularly their quarterback Jalen Hurts. The spotlight's on him. He's 20 of 35, 168 and a touchdown, but he had only 5 rushes for 14 yards. I mean, he's not when he's not running the football. I hate to put it this way, he's not special. You know what I mean? Like he's not, other than the Super Bowl. He's not going to be slinging the ball down the field and putting out those big stats. So he threw the ball over that magic spot that we always talk about 25 times or more, and most of those times he loses, and he threw it 35 times. Uh, Saw a lot of drops in this game. They had 4 drops, all on third downs. And the Eagles, once again, Kevin, their Achilles heel all season, and this was the foreshadowing stuff we talked about, was on 40% of their drives, they were 3 and out. And they led the NFL this year in 3 and outs. You can't play that way and expect to be a successful team in the playoffs. And the other side of it is they averaged 9 points in the second half all season. And you're just seeing it over and over again. This time they only scored 6 points in the second half. Is uh is Sirianni safe? I was on another show and they were like, "Oh, get rid of him." I tend to think he's fine, but I think that's a bit reactionary.
Sirianni's safe. He's not going anywhere. Harry Roseman's not going anywhere. Jalen Hurts isn't going anywhere. I have a list of a couple other people I think are going to go elsewhere. But there was one of the national shows, and they were saying, all right, Sirianni isn't doing anything with the offense. He doesn't coach the defense. It's like, what does he do? What does he do there? He gives hugs out, is what they said. Is that what he does? He gives hugs out. And it's like, you think about it, it's like, what does Sirianni do there? I mean, he sits there, he gets into a public spat with his wide receiver on national TV in a playoff game. And it's just, he just seems like his energy and his attention are on the wrong things.
I agree with you. I agree with you that he's uncoached like sometimes, and especially he wants to put himself in the same ilk as a McVay, as a Shanahan, as Andy Reid. These guys that have been successful around the National Football League a long time. He's like, I'm right there with those guys. I need to get the respect like them. And yes, he won the Super Bowl, but you're starting to wonder. You're like, all right, is he a George Seifert? Is he a Barry Switzer, where they won despite of him? You know what I mean? And as you said, what is he doing? Because he's not making the adjustments. Obviously, you see at the halftime, that's when great teams make the adjustments. He's not doing that because they've come out flat over and over again on in the second half. And then it's just like, all right, well, the other big elephant in the room is he has supported his boy Kevin Patullo over and over again at the offensive coordinator position, and the offense has struggled. And I ask you, do you think Sirianni's calling these plays, or is it Patullo? And then how should the Eagles proceed?
I think it's a little bit of, once again, column A and column B. I think definitely Sirianni has his fingerprints on this a little bit. He'd be the most absent blind lifeguard at the pool if he did not try to call some of these plays after what Patullo's been doing. That being said, though, Patullo's definitely the guy he's going to take the fall for it. There's no doubt about it. Because when you heard Jalen Hurts speak after the game, he wasn't giving a glowing, recommendation for bringing Patullo back. And another one of the murmurs I heard on national media was the fact that AJ Brown and Sirianni's whole beef in the middle of the season started because of the play calling. Because once again, everyone just attributed it to AJ being selfish. AJ wasn't getting the ball. Well, the thing is also AJ seeing the plays they're calling and the situations they're calling it. Maybe AJ's a guy thinking, you know what, this is bad for our team. Why are you doing this? So, I mean, as much as I don't like how AJ acts out sometimes, there's a reason why he's doing it.
Right, and it's up to the head coach to control the locker room, a situation, pull everybody together, and a great point that I heard earlier, and I'll also say yeah, agree with it is the better team won. The Niners were a team, and the Eagles are fractured. They are fractured. You could see that their the locker room is a mess in terms of I think a lot of people all season had a glide about themselves after winning the Super Bowl. Everybody doing that extracurricular stuff, too many commercials and their own radio shows, whatever you have. And they were not focused on the season. They just thought, okay, uh, the Eagles thought that they win the division for the first time back to back since 04, 05, and they're going to turn the switch and be the Super Bowl champions. Well, guess what? The Niners came and they were ready to play. And Brock Purdy, he didn't have the best game, but up and down. But he was 18 to 31, 262. He had two interceptions, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and two touchdowns. So the two interceptions, I think, Kevin, that was huge in this game. Q Mitchell had two picks, and what, they got 3 points out of that?
Yeah.
And when you're kicking too many field goals, it's just going to come back to bite you in the butt. And the Eagles they're not putting points up. You got to, as good as their defense is, you can't expect your defense to hold somebody, to 17 to 20 points every week. I mean, Fangio's doing as great job as he can, but eventually, like Shanahan's going to find the weak spot. And they saw that the Eagles were over pursuing, and there were two key plays. The one, Jacoby Dean was trying to cover Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield. He lost him. And then obviously the Juwan Jennings Philly special version or whatever you want to
Mhm.
call it, where he threw it to McCaffrey. So who do you think? Well, all right, before we get to that, but because yeah, AJ Brown is he's just a mess. All right. He had what, two catches for 25 yards. And he had a bunch of drops, and then obviously the flare up on the sidelines. But do you see him coming back next year?
I think it's the best interest for all parties involved that AJ Brown goes elsewhere. I'll put it to you that way. And like I said, Nick Sirianni's not going to go anywhere. So if Nick Sirianni's not going to go anywhere, Jalen Hurts isn't going to go anywhere. Who's the odd man out in this situation, this scenario? AJ Brown's going to be the one that is going to be moved to another team. That, once again, you throw it out there though, it's like the Eagles then have to bring in another wide receiver because as much as I like Devontae Smith, I don't like him as my number one carrying the whole team. You need another guy, a bigger guy. So that's something they're going to have to look into right there. But yeah, I mean, there's value for AJ Brown. You can definitely move him and get something.
Yeah, I think they're probably going to get like a second or third rounder, send him somewhere where he can be the feature guy. I don't think winning is a priority to him, though, Kevin. I think he definitely likes his stats and he's a me first rather than team. So yeah, I think his situation's untenable. You saw him and Sirianni get into it, and it's just not going to go any better for him because yeah, Sirianni's still running the show. He's not going anywhere. Also, Kevin, there's a ton of free agents on the Philadelphia Eagles going into next season. I want to run some of these names by you, and you kind of say, all right, going to be back. Reed Blankenship. Do you think he's going to be back?
At the right deal, Blankenship will be back. Just for the fact they're just so thin back there, they need to have somebody.
Yeah, and I almost think Kevin he may be back on a good deal, but they may start thinking about him as more of a backup because he's kind of deficiency. in terms of coverage. So struggle a little bit there. So yeah, Blankenship. All right. N'Kobe Dean.
N'Kobe Dean back, but it's like it's always a health question with N'Kobe Dean. You can keep the guy on the field, and it's been one of the battles he's had since he's been in the NFL. But a healthy N'Kobe Dean, yes, I'd bring him back.
I mean, he's smallish guy and he plays in the middle and he wants to be a thumper, but yeah, as you said, his body, I don't know if he's going to be able to hold up to that grind. And it may be cost prohibitive. We've seen the Eagles do this before with linebackers, Kazir White and whomever else you want to bring up, in the past they didn't want to pay him. This was a big one. Jalen Phillips, who they brought over to trade from Miami Dolphins, played pretty well for him down the stretch after the trading deadline. Do you think they find a way to sign him? But I think it's going to be tough in terms of dollars and cents.
Now, would I bring Jalen Phillips back? Yes, I would. Are the Eagles going to do it? No. I just don't think financially they can do that. And Howie doesn't like to be in situations where he doesn't have assets to move or, cap room to work somebody in. So I think Phillips would just cost too much. So I think they're going to let him walk.
I tend to agree with you there. And that's a shame because he came in, he replaced Josh Sweat. Unfortunately for the Eagles, Sweat played extremely well for the Cardinals this year, and they could have used him. But yeah, it's going to take a lot for Phillips. I mean, maybe he wants to give the Eagles a hometown discount, seeing how they took a chance on him over the Dolphins. But I agree with you there. This was a big one, and this guy had 2 touchdowns in the game. He played extremely well for the Eagles. Dallas Goedert.
And we got a healthier Dallas Goedert this year than we're used to. Yeah, Dallas Goedert, he's been their best offensive weapon, to be honest, especially in the red zone area with the touchdowns this year. I would bring Dallas Goedert back, but I think it's gonna come down to money as well. They got to make the numbers add up. So I mean, would I bring him back? Yes.
And if they get rid of A.J. Brown's contract, that will help them because don't forget the Eagles' 2 receivers are in top 15 in terms of pay. And then they have Jalen Hurts, who's making about $51-52 million a year. So, yeah, that's something to definitely keep an eye on. Last couple ones, Jahan Dotson. You talk about needing another receiver. I mean, is there any chance he's back? I tend to think no.
Nah, I mean, Jahan Dotson, you dime a dozen right there. Yeah, I'm good. We'll just leave it at that. Jahan Dotson gone.
So he's a nice man, Kevin. He doesn't want to say. John Dotson's been a disappointment since they brought him over, and yeah, it's something they're going to have to look at in terms of receiver position. Don't bring A.J. Brown back. Okay, well, you're going to count on the Jahan Dotsons of the world, and what was the other guy, Cooper, out there? I mean, what was he doing? He wasn't doing. He looked so good in preseason. Yeah, he looked so good in preseason. You know what I mean? And then he wasn't doing much in the regular season. So they had to find some other guys. And I think it starts with the OC changing that, maybe getting Jalen Hurts some private quarterback lessons or a guy that's a quarterback coach that he can vibe with and help him in terms of coming off his first read. I think his first, it's like you almost see it. He's eyeballing that receiver right away, and you know exactly where he's going with the football. It was like that last play of the game. Hell be damned, he was going to throw it. There were 3 guys around that Eagle. There was no chance that ball was getting through there. So, got to make the adjustments. Their fans aren't happy, but you know what? Hey, there's going to be 13 unhappy teams around the National Football League. Now it's time for them to regroup. Howie Roseman going to do his job, and then Sirianni going to have to coach him up. But as you said, Sirianni, what are you doing? I mean, are you there just to play with Big Dom, who's got the fake headset on? And what is going on there? So I'm not sure. But in terms of the Niners, do they have any chance going into Seattle? I mean, this is going to be a tough situation. The Seahawks are rested. And then you got the Niners coming in, are all beat up.
Before I get into that, lastly, with the Eagles players that are coming and going, Jake Elliott can pack his bags too, by the way. He's out the door. I think the whole Philadelphia market's seen enough of Jake Elliott. Bring him back in about 10, 20 years. We'll clap for him, when they bring all the Super Bowl guys out at halftime. Until then, the Jake Elliott era, I believe, is over. Now, moving on to San Francisco, as much as they gutted out that win, I mean, that's a tough road to hoe, man. You sit there, you have to go to Seattle right there, who's been resting for a week. You're already without George Kittle. you have familiarity with those two teams that have played each other already twice this season. I just don't see a situation where San Fran can win that game.
It's going to be tough for them, and the key will be Sam Darnold. So we'll do a deeper dive on that game in a minute. But yeah, I just want to get Kevin's first take. It was a good, strong win for the Niners in terms of going on the road, getting the job done, and it showed one coach is playing chess and the other was playing checkers. So, well, hey, and now Sirianni, take a look in the mirror and figure out what needs to be fixed with the Eagles because I don't think he's come. I don't think he's leaving. So figure it out. All right, the nightcap on Sunday is was interesting, and to be honest with you, Kevin, I thought of all the games this was kind of a sucker bet. I just kind of the Chargers. I'm not believing in them, and they go to Foxborough. They lose to the Patriots 16-3. They were never really into this game. I mean, Justin Herbert 19 to 31, 159. He was sacked 6 times under constant pressure. And then the Patriots, Drake May, not his best game, but I think this year's MVP, it accounted for himself well in terms of he had 10 rushes for 66 yards. He did survive being sacked 5 times, but the Patriots just outclassed the Chargers.
First of all, I think you have to give Drake May credit. I mean, it's his first playoff game he's ever been in. He sat there his second year in the league. You could tell the jitters were there that first half, and he shook them off. That pass he made to Hunter Henry was beautiful for that touchdown. I mean, that was nice. So for him to get that kind of, out of the way, nerves out, gone, and he can concentrate a little more now. I mean, that can do nothing but make him in a better situation for the upcoming game. New England did what they should have done. I think that on the other side, though, you got to look at Justin Herbert. And by the way, also one thing I want to say: Drake May threw receptions to 10 different receivers. That's spreading the ball around. 10 different guys caught passes for him. But it goes back to Justin Herbert now. Is he ever going to do anything in the playoffs? I mean, ever. He is just, when he hits the playoffs, man, there's nothing there.
Well, only 3 in the playoffs, and everybody questions Hurts. Well, Hurts got it done. He got an MVP in a Super Bowl and it's always like Herbert. People are making excuses for him, like, oh well, it was this, it was that. Now I'm hearing, oh well, his offensive line is very beat up, but he didn't get it done, Kevin. And as you said, you got to wonder. I mean, is he going to be that guy like a Phillip Rivers? Is he going to have a lot of regular season success and not get it done in the playoffs? So yeah, Herbert. It's going to be interesting to see where they go from here. But in terms of the Patriots, Ramondre Stevenson, I mean, he had some explosive plays. 3 catches for 75 yards. He also had 53 yards rushing. They had a ton of explosive plays for New England, and it's interesting because he's doing it. Uh, Drake May with a bunch of no-namers, man. You talk about Booty, Chisholm. I mean, it's like a milk carton group in that receiver room, except for Daddy Diggs. But I mean, can they keep this thing up?
I think they can. I think it's the type of football they play. As long as that defense keeps them in ball games, they have the running game to grind the clock. So that's one of the things that works in their favor. They keep the ball out of the other team's hands, and they have that 2 running back system where you have the speedster and Henderson, you have the bruiser and Stevenson. So with that, and they have the tight ends, and Drake May's another guy. He spreads the ball around, so it could be a different guy. It could be Douglas one week, Butte, last game. So I think New England could be a problem going down the road.
They're going to be playing at home, so for the most part, and they held the Chargers to 1 of 10 on 3rd downs. That just tells you everything you need to know. They just weren't doing anything, and then conversely, they shortened the game. They ran for 146 rushing yards in the game and controlled the clock. It's a Vrabel ball. I mean, these guys they're tough, they're physical, and that's a good formula for the playoffs. So yeah, quality win for them. Game was not the most exciting, but Patriots' first win since 2018 in the playoffs. And they're almost a feel-good story, Kevin. It's almost like you remember forever. You're like, Belichick and Brady, the evil empire, but you're almost rooting for Drake May, and Mike Vrabel because they've kind of changed the culture there with the Patriots, and I'm sure their fans are going to start getting obnoxious again because they're going to start getting some success. So good quality win for them, and we'll preview the games in a minute. But we're here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 102.9, Game Coast Sports Digital Network. In terms of the stats, home teams were 2-3. So it's just showing you, a lot of these teams can go on the road. There's no fear, and home field advantage is not what it used to be. A lot of these teams were home underdogs, and they fought back. There were three covers. There was one non-cover. There was one outright dog winner, and we know who that was. It was the Niners over the Philadelphia Eagles. In terms of over-unders, there were two overs and three unders. So it was like a scoring mix. Um, but I thought the points were there in a couple of the games, particularly the Rams and the Carolina Panthers. That was a ton of points in that game. You also had Chicago and Green Bay. That was a lot of points. But then the bottom, obviously, is the Patriots and the Chargers. So that was good stuff there. We're going to move on to everyone's favorite part, and I'm going to be interested to see what this turns out. Game balls and lackeys. I will let Kevin go first in terms of game ball. We'll go positive first.
All right, game ball. I don't want to steal yours or anything because I think it's one of two guys. But I have to do it for the fact I use the one guy as a pinata all year long. So I actually have to, once again, give him his flowers. Caleb Williams, down 18 points going in the half. Any other guy, because Caleb Williams is still a young quarterback. He doesn't have that playoff experience. So he sat there. He stayed in the game, kept his head in the game, kept his teammates in the game, came back and won a game they have no business winning. So, yeah, Caleb Williams gets my game ball.
That's a good one. I gave him an honorable mention. And if you look at his numbers, 24, 48. So he's inconsistent, 50% completion percentage, but 361, two touchdowns. He did have two interceptions. And as you said, he stayed the course. I mean, he led his team. And that's what you want with your quarterback. Look, it's not always going to be pretty. The Bradshaws of the world, they weren't perfect, but they found a way to win the game. And also Williams, 4 rushes for 20 yards. He was only sacked one time. And the throw he made to Roma Dunzier, where he's leaning the other way and he throws it up the sidelines. I mean, that was a dot. So it just shows you the ability he has. And now he has Ben Johnson, and they're really starting to click together. So that's a good one, Kevin. A couple other shout outs. Puka Nakua, 10 catches on 18 targets. I mean, that's just ridiculous. For 111, one TD. Also had 3 rushes for 14 yards and a touchdown. He's a guy that's going to be dangerous in the next round. But I gave my game ball, obviously, to Josh Allen. Everybody heard me oozing about him in terms of putting on a Superman cape. And it wasn't just because of Nate. That's his guy. Josh Allen, 28 of 35, 273. 1 touchdown, no interceptions, 11 rushes for 33 yards, 2 touchdowns. He got hit over and over again, went into the medical tent, and but kept fighting. That was a huge win for him. So, and now, as you said earlier, they've got to be the favorite. So, great win for Josh Allen. He gets my game ball. I'll go Lackey first because I think we're probably on the same page here. I'm giving it to AJ Brown. And he can sulk his way and read his book on the sidelines and fight with the coach. And he had 3 drops in the game. He ended up with 3 receptions on 7 targets for 25 yards, only 1 first down. And then the coup de grace was he storms out of the locker room, doesn't address the media. I mean, okay, coward. I give Saquon credits. Saquon stood there, took the business, and let everybody know how he felt. But yeah, AJ, he's just a petulant child, and I think the Eagles are going to move on from him. So he gets my lackey for this week.
Well, my lackey for the week, we're in the same zip code, that's for sure, because I'm going Philadelphia Eagles combo of Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo. There is no way. I mean, the fact is the running game was working. Saquon was picking up yards. That wasn't the issue. They couldn't figure out this whole pass scheme for the past 2 months now. Plus, they had time to work on this. They couldn't do it. They gave the guys even off a week when they should have been working on things. How much different would it have been if the Eagles would have played Green Bay maybe instead of having to play San Francisco? How much different would that have been? Now you could have been a 2 seed. The fact they rested those guys the last week cost them that game. Their heads weren't in it. They were sitting there playing safe the whole time. They weren't playing hungry, and the offense didn't do anything to change over the past 2 weeks. And that has to fall on the offensive coordinator and the head coach right there. So that is my lackey of the week combo style.
Agree with you. And if Sirianni wants to be in charge and keep his job, I'm sure Lori and Roseman are going to tell him, get rid of Patullo. I don't care if that's your buddy. He's not an offense coordinator. Tell him to take a hike. And I think it's going to come in the next couple of days. And Philly fans will rejoice, but they'll have to regroup going into July in the training camp. And then, as I said earlier, they're not going to win every year, but they definitely just did not seem to have a succinct plan this year where they were it was just a hodgepodge. And there was a lot of foreshadowing. Games that they won, you even were kind of saying, yeah, they won, but, and the Niners just stayed the course. They didn't get too high or too low, and they kept fighting, and it was a good win for them. But I do agree with you that Sirianni, Patullo, they got to figure out what's going on with this offense because averaging 9 points in second halves is just terrible. So some good lackeys and game ball winners on Lloyd Vance's Insider Football here on 1029 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network. All right, as we wrap things up, Kevin, you got a score for me with the what's going on with the game?
Oh, the under is looking very good right now. We're 3-0, I believe, we're in the second quarter now. Yeah, we're in the I can't
Is it
even see anymore.
Houston
Yeah,
or is it
second quarter
Pittsburgh?
just started. 3-0 Pittsburgh.
Oh, look at Pittsburgh keeping it low score, and I said that's what they were going to need to do to win this thing, and we'll see. The winner goes to New England, and then that's going to be a tough match with Greg May coming up. So we'll see how that turns out. But the Steelers putting up a fight uh, in the divisional round, which is my favorite one. Me and Rich were arguing about this on his show earlier. He likes the wild card round. I like the divisional round where the best teams come off the side and they enter the fray. So Saturday, the Rams, 13-5, they are at Chicago Bears. The line, I already looked at the lines. The Rams are a 3.5 point road favorite in this one. The over under is 51.
All right, I see what you're saying there. A lot, I think, is going to play on how healthy is Matt Stafford's hand. That's going to be huge in that game. And I think the Bears, in their mind right now, they're young enough. They have the young coach there, boy, his first season there, and he's gotten them this far. I think they're playing with the house money right now, and they're not worried. Caleb Williams isn't going to be worried. He's playing at home. What's he care? All these guys are going to be comfortable. They're sleeping in their own beds. While the Rams, on the other hand, you got into a dogfight with Carolina. You got a banged up quarterback. So, yeah, I think the pressure's on the Rams. The one thing I would say with the spread right now, I would lean to the Bears being a home dog.
And you always got to be aware of that home dog. And it's going to be on Chris Schuler, who's the defensive coordinator for the Rams. He's going to have to dial up some kind of game plan to shut down Williams and Roma Dunzier and Loveland, who I was talking about earlier. And don't forget, they can run the ball effectively, like better in it with Monange and Swift. They were running it down people's throats for a good part of the season. And when it's cold outside and windy, you're not going to be throwing the ball all over the place. Obviously, they were able to this week, but you got to wonder when weather's going to be a factor, especially in Chicago. I still remember the last time these two teams played. I think it was Eric Dickerson. They shut him down.
I don't want to
Kevin, you
talk
probably watched that
about it.
game.
It's too soon. It was snowing. Dieter Brock was a quarterback. It was a
Peter
championship
Brock.
game. The young Eric Dickerson fan in me was not happy that day.
Yeah, and ED he had a season for the ages, but that Bears defense shut him down. And old Dieter with his pop gun arm, he couldn't throw it through the wind, and the Bears got it done. And this is going to be interesting. I've been back and forth on this game. You do talk about the quarterback matchup. You have the veteran, former Super Bowl winner against the young upstart Caleb Williams got his first playoff win just the other day. I just think Puka Nacua is going to be the X factor, man. I mean, the guy I talked about earlier, 18 targets the last game. I think Stafford's going to be able to throw the ball to him, but you do got to watch that hand injury and everybody be holding their breath. And don't forget about Corum and Kyron Williams running the football, and that'll establish the play action. So I'll go with the Rams in a close victory. I mean, you don't have to make a pick yet, or I think you said you were leaning towards the Bears, though, right now.
I'll take the Bears. I'll be that guy. You know
Right.
why? Because when the Bears lose, it's going to fuel my disdain for Caleb Williams even more for next season. So, yes, I will take Caleb Williams and the Bears this week.
All right. The next game on Saturday, and this is the Nate Vance special. It's the Buffalo Bills And he told me, he said, "This is the one I wanted." He
Oh,
thinks
come
that
on.
Denver Broncos are fraudish. Uh, the Bills 13-5 at the Denver Broncos 14-3. Surprisingly, when this line came out, Kevin, the Bills are a 1.5 point road favorite, and over under is 46.5. Are the odds makers wrong about this thing? I mean, what do you think about Bo Nix in this game?
Bo Nix is one of those guys. You don't know what you're going to get sometimes. Sometimes he just becomes the running version of Bo Nix, and that's when he's a problem right there. I mean, Denver, can they establish? The thing is, you can run on Buffalo. I don't think Jacksonville did that enough, to be honest, to take some time off the clock. You can run on Buffalo. So if you can get Harvey moving with the ball and get some yards that way, I got to stand by what I said before the playoffs even started. Whoever won that Buffalo Jacksonville game is going to the Super Bowl, and I said Buffalo was going to go on a heater, so I got to stick with the Bills.
Yeah, and Broncos, you do got to fear that home dog, and they do have Bonito and that group that led the NFL in sacks. Over 60 sacks for that group. So the Bills got to do the job up front. The Bills are very beat up in this one. They did just lose Gabe Davis as well as, um, so I've been back and forth, but it's once again it's the Josh Allen, the Superman thing. I know every week we're like, oh, he's going to do it again. Well, I'm not betting against him. I'm just not. And Bo Nix, I think he's going to have a strong game, but they can't run the ball effectively with R.J. Harvey. R.J. Harvey's not running the ball. Ever since they lost J.K. Dobbins, there's just not the lanes there for this group running the football. And Sutton and that receiver group they're kind of no name. They have Ingram, but they don't. And the Broncos have won close games all year, Kevin. So much like the Eagles, you're like, all right, well, the ball's going to bounce a different way at a certain time, and this may be the game. So I tend to agree with you. I think the Bills win this one, and it's crazy because Sean McDermott, he was on probably one of the hottest seats in the National Football League going into that Jaguars game, and I know he was relieved to get that thing done. But good, solid win for them. So we both agree on that one, going with the Bills. Sunday, the Niners 13-5. They're at the Seattle Seahawks 14-3. Seahawks number one seed in the NFC. This is the rubber match. The Niners beat them all the way back in week one. A lot of people forget about that. And then most recently, Seattle took it to the Niners in week 18. Um, this one's going to be interesting because you got the Niners kind of limping in there after the Eagles beat them up even further than they were, and you tip your cap to guys like Eric Kendricks coming from free agency and playing well for them, but I think the Magic's run out for the Niners, and this is going to be a tough assignment with Seattle. Now the key, obviously, is going to be Sam Darnold. Which Darnold's going to show up? If he's the same guy that played for the Vikings last year, they're in trouble.
I got to think Seattle wins this game. I think Shanahan has done one of the better coaching jobs of anybody in the NFL this year with all the injuries they've had. Sit there and go into Philadelphia, win a playoff game there. But losing Kittle on top of all the other injuries that you've had, I mean, there's only so much that you can make up for. I mean, I think San Francisco gutted out a really good season for themselves this year, where other teams might have just rolled over. But I think Seattle takes care of the business at home.
And you look the last time these two teams played, not that long ago, week 18, when everything was on the line. Don't forget the number one seed was on the line. And the Seattle rushed 39 times for 180, 4.65 yards per carry, and they just controlled the line of scrimmage. The clock, they controlled that 37-48 to only 22-12 for San Francisco. And Darnold's got to be ready for the moment. Last time they played, he really didn't do a lot. He threw for 198, and he kind of just protected the football, leaned on a run game. And I expect they're going to do that again because their defense is attacking. A lot of people are not talking about what Mike McDonald's done with that defense, and I think they're going to get after Purdy. He'll make some mistakes. He did have 2 picks, as we said, against Philadelphia Eagles, and the Seahawks defense is better than the Eagles. So I think, yeah, and that's a big line, 7.5. We'll see if they cover that. These games have been so close. Last game, and we'll see how this turns out. But if we'll just go from the New England side. Do you think New England has what it takes to match up with either the Steelers or Houston Texans?
I do, just for the fact that neither team, Houston or Pittsburgh, is really going to be able to put up a ton of points. They're not those kind of teams. They're not going to hang 30, 40 points. So henceforth, then you're in a close game at home. And I like New England in that situation. Like I mentioned earlier, as far as they can take time off the clock, they keep the ball out of the other team's hands. And right now, it's looking like, well, Houston has the lead right now. So, I mean, I think either way, though, it's another game that's going to be it's going to be cold weather, and you got to lean to the home team on that one.
We'll see later on during the week what's the line for this game and what the opponent is. But I do think that New England, Vrabel is dialing that right success in terms of the physicality. This group, Drake May doing a nice job. So I think it's going to be a good matchup, and we'll see if it's going to be the Texans or the Steelers. I'm leaning towards the Texans. I still think they're with their defense, they're going to be able to put up a battle. So another great week here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 1029 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network. We're dropping this one on YouTube. I appreciate Kevin hanging in there with the technical issues. And anything else, Kevin, before we get out of here?
Nah, man. Honestly, that was probably one of the best weekends of football to start it off. Usually, it's bad when they put the 4:30 game, the first playoff game on Saturday. Is usually that trash giveaway game, and you got the Rams and Carolina that, and it just took off from there. So, I'm looking forward to next week, man. They're really getting it going.
We'll preview and review. I'll preview all the games on BYP, so check that out when I drop it with Rich Chew, and then Kevin and I will review them all next week here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football 1029 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network. Check us out next Monday at 8 p.m. See ya.